decided I'm not going to reuse anything from the old rack because the old rack, frankly, is really nasty. The only part I am going to reuse are these steel sleeves. What I didn't realize was that there were different types of bushings. I guess the older Foxes, including the LTD here, of course, have bigger bolts holding the rack on. And what that means is that the Mustang bushings actually don't fit. Now, I did drive to a parts store. I got some Mustang bushings, so I'm going to make them work. Why? Because, well, I simply don't want to waste the time. I've got a business trip coming up this week, and I want to get as much done as possible, and I don't want to be sitting around waiting for things to happen. So we're going to modify the bushings I bought to work with these sleeves. That's going to involve some questionable machining. I'm going to pull this thing out right now. I'm going to show you how to do it. I've got a neat little trick that I think would be helpful for you guys too. Okay, first of all, I wanted to share with you guys this little black iron pipe cap. I drilled a hole through it. This made this years ago to move a bearing in a serpentine belt idler just a little bit. It worked great for that. Take a bolt. This is, I think, 7/16. It just fits right in here. And then I have a stack of washers I use with it. You know, you can put a bunch on it, but it works as a press, a puller, whatever you need. I actually have used this thing at least half a dozen times since then. It just sits on a shelf, but I use it a lot. I'm going to use it here to pull that out. This is not quite long enough, so I'm going to use a piece of all thread. I happen to have a piece of 3/8 all thread here. That's what we're going to use. So let me set that up, and let's get to work and get that sleeve out. Okay, so I had no idea that this rack was going to be this nasty. Really, it's got to be the nastiest thing on the car. I think it's still the only original mechanical piece left on the thing, honestly. The bushings are completely shot. I mean, these are so oil-soaked and soft that they're just downright cushy at this point. So the way this is going to work is we will put this in through the back, and then on the front we'll put the black iron pipe cap so it has room to push through. Put one of the washers on, and let's flip it around the other way. Clearly these washers are disposable. Put the nut on, and you have to draw it out forward. It will become really clear as to why in a minute. Okay, the all thread's starting to turn, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take some vice grips and just clamp them on the back side. There we go. You can definitely see it starting to come out. Let's see, that might be enough. There we go. That is enough. You know what? Almost there. Get the other grungy glove. It is. Okay, I wanted to take a little moment here and show you guys the difference between blasting and wire brushing and regular cleaning. Washers for comparison's sake. Before, after. Now I'm going to have to paint the blasted stuff. I'll hit it probably with some black or whatever I've got, just mostly for rust. Nuts. These were nasty too. These were actually in the blasting cabinet, but I figured I'd just give you a before and after. The other one actually turned out better. It was less pitted. This is the first one. You can see clearly it's more pitted. They're both still raw steel. Need to be painted, but I really am digging the aluminum oxide as a blasting medium. It works really, really nicely. Let's explain the problems here with the old Fox versus the new Fox bushings. So here is a pair of unmolested newer Fox bushings and what you find in energy suspension and all that jazz. But these are just rubber bushings, which actually won't make a difference, and you'll see why later. Let's go ahead and just take a, I mean, I know this is going to be a wonky measurement, but these are actually surprisingly stiff. The others were completely floppy. 0.767, 0.765, so just hair over 3/4 of an inch. Here's the problem. 9/10 of an inch. So this shaft too big for this hole. Not gonna work. So we need to do something about this. And unfortunately, the Fox steel bushings won't work because the bolts are smaller. These use these big honking bolts, which is one of the reasons why we're using all the hardware, because this is some serious hardware. This is not Chinesium. That's almost 30-year-old American-made automotive steel. It's gonna be really tough. So don't really want to replace them for that reason. So what I did is I've already done one. Here's a bushing I prepared earlier. So I've already done this one. Very, very questionable machining system that I used for this. And these do fit now nicely. It's still a snug fit. Takes some effort to fit. Okay. And this will go on. So it's pretty snug. And when the bolt gets clamped down, it's going to expand. It's already a tight fit. The rack, by the way, the new rack is here. It's already a tight fit in here. Like, you can't just slip these in. You have to really force that, and it's going to take a lot more than that to get those in. So this is going to be plenty tight. And the reason why I'm not worried about these not being urethane is, frankly, look at how thin that is. There's not a whole lot of rubber there anyway. So, you know, I'll try to focus again for you guys. So, you know, it is what it is. And oddly enough, these are made in the USA, which these days means likely to fall apart. But whatever. So I'm going to take you over to my mill and show you how I did that very stupidly. You can tell by the unholy mess around the mini mill here that this ain't my first rodeo with these little bits of rubber. I don't recommend doing this. That is a 15/16 drill, and if you remember, the sleeves are a little over 9/10 of an inch. So this is actually a little larger than that, but given that we're drilling rubber, well, it works out pretty well. I snuck up on this on the first one. So here's a few things I learned. I still have all my fingers. But again, don't try this at home. I'm not responsible. You're a fool if you attempt this, yada, yada, yada. So what this is, it's actually a sewing machine oil. It's a very light mineral oil, and I'm putting it on the outside of the bit because what's going to happen is the bit is going to want to grab. Now, this is not a drill press, this is a mill. There's a reason why that's important. On a drill press, you know, up and down is spring-loaded, not very controllable. Here what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it in the ballpark, and then I'm going to engage it, so I'm using the slow feed. Now the trick here is to not go too fast, because like I said, kind of dangerous, but also to keep the bushing from spinning. If it spins, let go immediately. So I'm not going warp speed because I like my fingers, and we're just kind of eyeball-centric edge finding, or center finding this. So fortunately I'm not going to feed with that, I'm going to feed with the thumb wheel. Let's see how this works. It sort of finds its own center because the bushing is already chamfered, and you're feeling for it. And you're just really, I cannot stress this enough, slowly feeding, because it is going to want to grab on you. So we're just going just a little bit at a time. And if that drill bit grabs it, I let go. You can feel it starting to grab a little bit more. I can feel it. You're just kind of secretly hoping it is. You're getting down there. The further in you get, the more it's going to want to grab. And periodically, the beginning actually isn't that bad. What's bad is when you're about halfway through. Because that's when it's really going to want to bite. But you go a portion of the way through on this side, and then a portion of the way through on the other side, and the twain shall meet. Mark Twain, whatever Twain. Alright, we're making some progress. We're probably a third of the way through it. And we're going to cut it right there. It is pretty tough to hold, I will say that. So let's disengage the slow feed. Let's clean that off a little bit. Let's take a look at what we've made. It actually leaves a surprisingly nice, I don't know if you can actually see that. Let me see what I can do here. Leaves a surprisingly nice finish. And here you can kind of see the lip inside. That's where the drill bit stopped, is right down there, about a ½ inch in, maybe just a hair less. But it's pretty good, shockingly. So now, you know, we're a little under halfway in. So we'll clean the bit off again. We'll re-lube it and we'll go from the other side. That's what we're trying to avoid. When it bites like that, you just gotta let it go. And it's gonna want to. That's why this will never ever work on a drill press. And I know you can't really see this, but there's it really took a chunk there. Alright, so here's what's gonna happen. I am going to go and spray bomb those steel parts. I have one more of these to do. I will do that off camera. And I was hoping to get a little bit more done today, but you know, I'm gonna have to call that a day because gotta go spend some time with the kid. So I will catch you guys on the flip side. Just thought I'd share this with you because I, well, have the mind of a 5-year-old. Behold, my big black nuts. Before I got to work this morning, I figured I'd sneak out in the garage and put the bushings in. So here they all slip in pretty decently now. These have been painted black, flat black. It's actually just whatever I had, mostly just to keep rust out. So what I'm thinking is 2 of these are pretty much spot on, and 2 of these are maybe 0.10 off center. So I was thinking we put the spot on ones in the front and leave the off center ones for the back. And the way I was thinking of assembling these was slipping that one onto that one onto that. Now, I'm not sure how much force is going to be required. Let's see if I can figure out a way where you can see this. I can actually do it. So we'll set these off to the side. Hopefully that works out okay. So we'll just randomly choose one like that. And then from the back, we'll push push that in. And then I was thinking maybe this well-worn quick grip clamp. Focus. I'm gonna have enough to push this in. I'm installing these dry specifically because they are rubber bushings. You saw what happened when oil, power steering fluid in this case, has its way with a rubber bushing. It completely ruins it. All right, well that's pretty well seated. So, frighteningly, that plan worked pretty well.